Hello and welcome to episode 107. I'm going to start saying episode titles every time now that we're past 100 of the Stateside Soccer Show. My name is Jordan Wiegand, and with me today is Mr. Syndicate himself, Logan Stump.
This is not the man you're looking for.
So we are going to be talking. Hold on, let's get our song going here. There we go. We're going to be talking a few teams here, the last four teams that we have to preview. Portland Timbers, Sporting KC, Vancouver, and Nashville, who are moving to the West Side. Their favorite movie this year was West Side Story. But awful joke. Don't laugh. But we will be.
Can't help it. I thought it was pretty solid.
We will be doing the gritty, apparently.
All right.
Now that Pulisic scored a goal.
Jordan, I would pay money to see you do the gritty. Like, I'd pay a lot of money.
If I could. I tweeted out, I have no idea what this is. I tweeted out, I know I'm old or out of touch because I have no idea what this is.
Mm-hmm. I'd go with the out of touch. Like, old, like, you could get away with old. But, like, the out of touch thing, I think it's more of it. Like, because I feel like a lot of people know what it is just because of what Jefferson did with the Vikings. Obviously, you don't. But
I mean, I've watched football.
yeah.
I didn't know this thing had a name.
Did you see Schefter doing it?
What?
Have you seen Adam Schefter's video of him doing it?
No.
So Adam Schefter's doing a dance. If you look it up, Adam Schefter doing the gritty, it's hilarious
because he's not Darren Rovell, because I feel like he would be doing those cringe
things. He might have
things.
done it with them, but no, this was Adam Schefter because Schefter was like doing it, and somebody caught it on video and tweeted out, and Schefter retweeted it and said that I was practicing my gritty and it wasn't going very well. These are actually pretty solid.
Gritty because it's a gridiron? Like what? No, where does the name come from? That's what I want to know. And why are we using it in our football?
See, I thought it was the Flyers. No,
that's gritty. That's what I was thinking too. I'm like, man, he's from Pennsylvania, Pulisic, so maybe there's some sort of tie in there where he was going to pull out the mask and be gritty. But no, I was not familiar with this. Let me know. Okay, if anybody else was not familiar with the gritty, please send us mail, send us email or tweets that say you were not and what age you are, because I just want to know, like, where most of these people kind of fall on the spectrum of. As we said last episode, I'm getting up there. Hurt my knee bringing in groceries. I'm listed day to day right now. Today's a good day. Today I feel pretty good, except for my head, and that's something different. So, we're gonna be previewing those four teams. But as I mentioned, Pulisic doing the gritty, scoring his sixth goal. I had more fun instead of doing the gritty or making puns with that. I said Pulisic.
Yeah,
right.
That was
scored 6 Champions League goal. That's pretty good. I was like, I got to make this before somebody else does. And guess what? Everybody was too obsessed with the dance. They did not think of the clever pun, which is what my job is to do. And unfortunately, McKennie fractured his foot.
Brilliant.
So
Love that.
No gritty for him right now.
No. There's another word that rhymes with it, but this is a family-friendly podcast.
Yeah.
But it really is awful. It's awful.
It is awful. We just had Reyna who re-injured himself. Apparently, it's not serious for Reyna, so that'll probably be okay. But we're getting into very soon here, right? The March qualifiers that are going to seal the deal on if we qualify, and we might be without a player who is in the best form of his life and the best form of the team throughout January and February.
Yeah.
So kind of unfortunate. I don't know how long a foot fracture takes to heal. Soccer feet are pretty important.
Yeah.
Compared, most sports, I guess your feet are important, right? Unless you're water polo. I don't know. Water polo, is your foot that important there? You're usually swimming. I don't know. But, not good. Not a good look here for the U.S. men's national team. But we'll talk about, those ramifications as the qualifiers come in hot and heavy in March. But let's start previewing, I guess. Or did you have anything else you wanted to mention podcast wise, or any shop that we needed to talk about. We needed to talk some business here at the beginning of the show.
Are you firing me? Is that like what's happening?
No,
Like,
I was just saying, like, if you had anything related before we actually get into previews that I don't know. Oh, we had a question. Let's do the question now, so that way everybody hears it. And then whenever you get bored and you turn off the episode, a minute from now, 20 minutes from now, you'll be able to think about the question and answer us on Twitter, Instagram, DMs, Facebook DM, whatever, and post on our Facebook wall for the over 50 people. And then you can email us for the over 60 people. And then everybody else is going to probably hit us up on Twitter, where we want to know, because we were talking about how much we like the old MLS logo with a non-fractured foot kicking a ball. And then I talked about how I kind of came around to the new one, but would not be opposed to changing that logo, as if I had any say. But what the question is, if we were to do a style, if MLS was to do a style, because I'm not making this, if MLS was to do a style of base MLB's or NBA's league logos, where it usually has a person doing some sort of action, what would it be for Major League Soccer? What player would you pick to base it off of, and what motion would you do? One of the ones I thought of would be like a David Beckham free kick, because he's got that signature lean as he's going for his free kick, as he bends it like Beckham, that I think would be very recognizable if you saw that. Or you could do something like a Landon Donovan. I think we've kind of talked about this on other shows, or not like, I think other people put this on Twitter before too, because I think my answer was the Landon Donovan water. Was it the water fountain picture of Landon Donovan, which I thought would be a good one. But like serious options, like what player would you use? Because when you look at it, what's interesting is baseball has a batter getting ready to swing, but really there's a whole nother side of the game with a fielder or a pitcher that is not on the logo. So it's like, what would you pick? Are you going to have like a goalie making a save? Are you going to have a player taking a penalty? Like, what is the most iconic moment in MLS that you would make the logo, or the most iconic player maybe? Do you have any options, Logan, for yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I think when you think about MLS, you're thinking of guys like Landon Donovan. You're thinking of guys like Rooney wasn't here long, but David Beckham. Maybe you're looking at the Gonzalo Higuain. Yeah, Gonzalo Higuain smoking a cig or something like.
yeah. How about the Terry Henry? How about the Terry Henry leaning on the goalpost?
Yeah, that'd be funny.
That would be a good one.
Yeah, maybe Andre Blake with like the hands together, like he usually does when he does something spectacular. So I don't know. Like there's a lot of different options. Joseph would be a perfect option eventually if that ever came to fruit. Like I love his kneel down that he does.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking as soon as you said his name.
I love that. But if you're talking more of like formers, I mean, I think Landon Donovan is a perfect. I feel like that's the most fitting, just because of he's got his lore in U.S. men's national team history. He also did really well in this league. So I think that would be most fitting, because Beckham's going to be Beckham. Beckham's going to have his statues and his trophies and everything else. Maybe give Beckham the trophy, and then change Landon Donovan into the logo, and then you can kind of switch those up, just because at least Landon's name will come off that trophy and onto, I think, something pretty cool. So I think that'd be pretty solid of him doing that, or Clint Dempsey with the sunglasses on or something crazy.
Clint Dempsey ripping up the refs book. Do you remember that?
Yes, I did see clips of that. That's awesome. I really wish that, like, I don't know. It seems like they don't do as much with their past players, and I don't know if that's because like the jobs they currently hold. But like NBA had All-Star Weekend this weekend. I think it'd be really cool to have something like that. Like, I mean, they have Kellen Carr. They've got.
I think the issue is that the league is just so young.
Yeah.
That you don't like the NBA is celebrating the 75 years, and they're like, we'll do 75 of our greatest players,
right,
and all that. Like, I think it is really very different with soccer as well, because as we were talking about last episode, where you need those players that play a whole career here or whatever. We don't have that really. So you'd be calling, if you're having a special weekend like that, you'd be calling players like Wayne Rooney, who are now, in the fight of his life with Derby County.
Right.
And you would be calling Beckham, who's already an owner of Miami. You would be calling like
coming out of the loyal.
Yeah, you'd be calling like Robbie Keane to be like, okay, where are you situated now, Robbie? Are you back in Ireland? Like, come back over here for a weekend. Like, they're all so spread out because they're either still in the world of football with different teams in different leagues, or maybe they're back home, and that's one of the difficult. I don't know. That's very difficult, and I think that would be, I think somebody you can bank on would be Wando, right? Because he's probably going to be in the stands with his shirt off. Yeah. But think it over, everyone. Think it over. Who would you put on the MLS logo? What pose would they be making? Is there a specific moment that you can see? Maybe send us a link to a video if you have a specific moment in your mind. But I would look forward to seeing your responses. We were also thinking at some point to try to pick that for U.S. men's and U.S. women's national teams. Like who would be the player we pick? I think most people would probably say, Rapinoe with her little, curtsy, bow, whatever you want to call that. Not a bow, but I guess some sort of like pose that she made. That everybody does. You can see that. You can see Alex Morgan with the sip in the tea.
Yeah.
It could be an Abby Wambach header, like what Mia Hamm taking off her jersey. Like there's so many options for the women's national team. The men's team, you're probably thinking maybe Donovan after scoring against Algeria. Late on, you might be thinking Tim Howard standing on his head against Belgium. Like there's a few options there if people want to send us some of those too. But that's not what we're here for today. We're here for Portland first. They finished 4th in the West. MLS Cup runner-up. This is really, since NYCFC is the first time we're talking about a team that, was very, very successful last year. 56 goals scored, 52 given up. So their defense still not great, but they make a run. So they had some up and downs last year, but finished strong, got through the playoffs. Gio Savarese continuing his good jobs that he's been having at Portland. But, a team of controversy, right? When we talk about their ownership, when we talk about Andy Polo that just happened here. When we talk about the women's team, the Thorns, like I don't know, they've had a lot of scrutiny lately that they seemingly get out of because the league is not followed as much, and also because they're successful. That it kind of steers the storyline away from it, right? Like if they're in MLS Cup, most of the coverage is going to be about that. It's not going to be about what they've done wrong. And a lot of this stuff also came out in the off seasons. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens through the course of the season. I think some of the fans are really thinking of putting on some protests and stuff like that. So we'll be keeping an eye out on, how this team does with the scrutiny. Right? This doesn't usually affect the players, but maybe it will. You never know. But out. Diego Valeri has left MLS completely. Steve Clark goes to Houston Dynamo on a free transfer. Renzo Zambrano goes to Punic Yerevan. If I said that right, probably not. Manny Perez goes to Louisville City. Jorge Gonzalez goes to Louisville. Blake Bodley goes to the San Diego Loyal, the Landon Donovan San Diego Loyal. Andy Polo released due to that, issue that we talked about that the team knew about for close to a year. Jeff Antonella retired. Ishmaela Home released. But they bring in David Ayala from Estadio. I can't say it. Sorry, I messed it up. Estudiantes for undisclosed fee. I butchered that. Justin Vom Stieg from LA Galaxy. Tiga Ikoba from Tar Heels from North Carolina. Justin Rasmussen, Super Draft. Sivert Haugley, Super Draft. And David Bingham, free agent. So they lost a lot, but they're bringing Sebastian Blanco back, which is a big thing. But is he going to be healthy? Felipe Mora actually had 11 goals last season. Can he keep it up? Spria, right? Is that who you have there? Yeah, I think you spelled it wrong.
Yeah,
I think it's just a typo. Yeah,
Yeah.
Spria. Can he replicate 2021? Eric Williamson missed a lot of the season. Can he come back? A lot of question marks. As this team is aging, as it's losing some players, where do we think Portland kind of goes here? I actually forget where I put them on my preview chart that we'll talk about, so I have to pull that up. But where can we see them going?
I mean, I think it's going to be interesting to watch, right? Without Diego Valeri, I mean, he's been around since 2013. He's had excellent seasons with Portland. He's part of why they've been so good in the years that he's been there. However, what's really weird to me, and I think somebody else tweeted this too, like if you actually go back and look at I think it's both the Sounders and the Timbers. I think it's mostly the Timbers. People talk about how legendary the Timbers have been, but if you go back and look at their finishes, I mean, you know, they're 6th, 8th, 5th in the league. Like they're good, but they're not like, I think a lot of people put them up high just because of the region that they play and they have to play, and they have really good matches with Seattle, and Seattle's kind of created that rivalry. I mean, I would say that Seattle is going to have more success than Portland, but again, it all kind of stems back to some of these players that they've had for so long. Diego Valeri is a huge name. And while he didn't play a lot last year, I think it's definitely somebody they're just going to miss having around just because of the expertise and just the greatness he has had at that club. But they've got Sebastian Blanco, who, you know, last year leading up to the season, he wasn't completely fit. I remember listening to Gio talk during some of the press conferences, and he had not been fully fit, Sebastian. So trying to get Sebastian back into the fold, he ended up only starting 12 matches out of the 24 that he played. So he still was dealing with some kind of nagging of the injury and maybe not overworking that injury, because we've seen how that can work with a guy. But if all systems are go with Sebastian Blanco, I mean, this team does change quite a bit just because of how much he can provide. I think it also depends on, you know, just the health overall. I mean, this is an older team, and we've looked at a lot of younger teams here in MLS, but the Timbers and the Sounders, I mean, they both have quite a bit of experience. Guys that are closer to in their prime or out of their prime or coming down off their prime. So I've always found it interesting. And I think that's why they're successful in playoff games, because they do have a lot of experience. But when you look at it, Diego Chara is not young, 34 years old, going to turn 35. I'm not sure how long his legs can keep up. He did play over 2,000 minutes last year, but, you know, how much longer can he keep that up? How much can Sebastian Blanco play this year? Can Espria kind of replicate his season from last season? You know, it's kind of stuff that you've mentioned. But, you know, is Eric Williamson going to be healthy? And Eric Williamson, they actually just did an interview with him, Jordan. I don't know if you saw that, where he said that Greg Berhalter's system was so difficult to learn because there's just
complex.
So many moving pieces. And he says that's kind of why I think at times guys struggle in the system, is because it's so complex. But I think if you're looking at Eric Williamson, it'd be really nice to have him healthy and ready to go, because he might have to step into a role, you know, filling in the midfield depth, whoever's going to have to step in for McKinney in that midfield, which, you know, I think that'll be interesting just to kind of watch Eric this year, because Eric was going to be that guy this year until he got hurt with the ACL.
By the way, Paul Tenorio stating that the recovery time frame is thought to be 8 to 12 weeks for McKinney. Yeah. So
I figured it'd be that much.
2 to 4 months.
Yeah.
So, right.
Not the end of the world, but, you know,
2 to 3 months. Sorry.
Yeah. And we're sitting in U.S., not to go on the U.S. men's tangent, but we hit it with Eric. I think Eric's going to be crucial to what Greg looks at now. I mean, with Weston out that long, it could put him into a situation where he's got to play some in that midfield. And I think Eric's got the abilities to play well in the midfield. It'll just be, can he get back and bounce back from that horrible knee injury from last season?
Yeah, it's interesting because what he said about the U.S. men's team
Mhm.
being complex. Usually, that's not what you want for a national team because all these players are coming from different systems. You usually want something more simple. So that might explain why we're having such attacking issues because they come in from their club team and then immediately have to try to remember all of these, what he called them like little cues
Mhm.
that you have to pick up on it. Sometimes they're not like simple cues. Some of them are multiple cues. You're reading from the other team and stuff.
Mhm.
And that might be part of the issue for the men's. But we'll move on to anything else about Portland. I have them performing worse than last year, and I don't think that's too out of pocket.
No, aging. They need to stay fit. Otherwise, I mean, you're looking at a team that could struggle. Their defense is not great. It got better last year because Van Rankin got better, and so did Claudio Bravo. But it wasn't enough to really kind of push them up over the edge. And I think there's part of it where they got in a real nice stretch there towards the end of the season. I think in like the last 3 or 4 months, they had gone on this stretch where they won like 13 matches, only dropped like 3 as far as losses, and didn't really drop any points. But I think they also got lucky in the playoffs because they did run up against teams that were bouncing some of the big boys out of the way for them. So they were, it was nice enough for them to get into a situation where they didn't really have to play some of the heavy hitters until they got to NYCFC. But yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of in the same boat with you. Either they stay par or they kind of regress because they didn't really add much that screams that they're going to get better.
Yeah. I have a different Cascadia team representing the West in MLS Cup
Oh
this
yeah,
year.
Vancouver. Yeah,
Yeah.
I thought that was weird that you put that there, but
Yeah.
I guess we'll go with it.
Watch that be true now. Like watch that happen now.
I spoke it into
Like
existence.
for so long, the West has had a Cascadia Cup team in the final, and everybody's like, "Oh, I guess it's going to be Seattle this year," and then
Yeah,
all of a sudden, it's just randomly Vancouver.
right. It'd be awesome. I'm rooting for it.
Yeah, chaos, right? Um. Okay. Let's go to SKC, who finished third in the West. They were battling it out for first in the West for all the way up to decision day, right? We
Mhm.
had 3 options that could happen in the West. 58 goals, 40 goals given up. Pierre Vermees has been there forever at this rate. I can't even tell you when he started, to be honest.
13 seasons ago.
13 ago.
Yeah, this will be his 14th.
Geez, they were still the Wizards then, weren't they?
They were,
when
yeah.
he took
Because
over.
when you look up on Transfer Market, that link's not working on the show notes there. But when you look him up on Transfer Market, it still says Wizards.
Was it really?
Yeah, it says that he's coached the Wizards. I was like, man, I didn't know he switched to basketball.
Yeah. He's a
Wow.
big.
He's versatile.
Okay, so he played for the Wizards as well. He started coaching them. Oh, it only shows his player career. That sucks. Where's his manager career? This is FBref, by the way.
Oh yeah, the link works now. 460 matches, 207 wins, 104 draws, and 149 losses. He averages 1.58 points a match, which is really good for a guy that's been around that long. That's insane. Just about how much success that they've had.
Geez, what would be 13 years ago? I don't even know anymore.
2008,
Maybe.
2008, 2009.
Yeah,
That's
somewhere around there.
That's insane.
Yeah, they became the Sporting KC in like 2011.
He was caretaker manager back in 2008 and 2009. August 4th, he coached 12 matches, and then he was appointed the actual manager a year later. So, or no, sorry, that's the same year. Same
There
year.
you go. Yeah.
Wow.
So he's been there from when they were the Wizards, all the way up to now, which has been. Geez, I don't even know if many of this. We talked about it with our friends from Sporting KC, right?
Yeah.
From No Other Pod, where both of them, I think, had not started watching until after they were Sporting KC.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of people jumped on at that point because they had the new stadium and they were finally getting the exposure. So, yeah, he's for a lot of them, he's like their only coach,
Yeah,
right?
that's
For a lot of
wild.
these fans,
Yeah.
that's pretty cool. Second in the league in scoring, second in possession. They had some really, really great attacking with Johnny Russell and Daniel Salloway, who finished in the near the top for Golden Boot. Gadi Kinda, did well as well. Pretty good defensively. Really, I mean, this is one of the lowest goals we've talked about for a bit. 40. I mean, that's 12. That's 12 less than the Timbers gave up, who finished just a spot below them. Really shows how strong the top three of the West were. Really, when you look at it. Out. They lose Eli Sanchez going to LAFC. It's a free agent. 144 appearances for the club. Jeez, that's a lot. Jalen Lindsay out. He's going to go to Charlotte FC. But in Logan and Denby, a U22 initiative signing, 21-year-old Belgian youth international. They have Robert Voloder, if I said that right, Voloder. German center back, also likely to be a U22 initiative signing. And Nikola Vunovic, DP forward, Alan Polito, out for the whole year after undergoing knee surgery. They bring in a number 9, Nikola Vunovic, Montenegro national team. 10 goals and 22 appearances in the Serbian league for FK Vozdanovac. So, to be honest, I don't have many worries for this team. You look at the list of out, and you have 2. We've talked about teams that have had 20.
Right.
I'm exaggerating. But I have not seen a list this short while we've been doing these previews. 2 being how many players they've lost, and then they bring in some. Now, of course, they lose Polito due to injury. He wasn't in the out. But they usually hold on to their squad pretty good. They don't usually go through a lot of turnover. They still have the same manager at the helm. I'm thinking top 3 again is the goal here for SKC, and I actually think that they could probably win the West once again. And I had some people I saw on Twitter have them completely out of the playoffs, and I don't understand that at all.
I was like 10th. I was like 10th.
This Vermees team is not finishing 10th. I'll tell you that much.
I think Peter would blow a fuse. Like it'd be a fall from grace if they finished 10th or below. I had a couple people that had that sentiment that they were not even close to a playoff team. I was like, they didn't lose anything. Like Ilya Sanchez is good, but like I think you can replace that, and they're going to have to. Like as he got older, you're going to have to replace those spots. So you've got to find guys that can kind of fill into those positions. I do say the Alan Polito thing's worrying, but again, they kind of did it without him last year. Like they had this issue last year too. He was injured. They weren't sure if he was going to play much of the season. Ended up not really impacting the team like he had in the past, because heck, Jordan, we were a couple of months before the season started. I mean, there were talks about maybe Alan Polito getting a run, and then Chicharito might be getting called into El Tree. Like those were 2 names where people were like, "Oh yeah, this could become a thing." And I would not like. I don't think many people would have bet that Chicharito was going to have a much better season, like far and away blow Alan Polito out of the water. But because of injury and because of the way things worked out, he never fit back into the cards for Vermees. And I think that's kind of where this team is now, is trying to figure out, can they find somebody else besides Johnny Russell and Daniel Salloway to fill in and score some goals? Because I don't know if they can rely heavily on them, because while they can do well in the season, I'm not sure this is a playoff team, because you man mark one of the others and it's like, okay, well now it's over. If you mark them out of the game, what can they really create? If Gadi Kinda is not doing much, then and he had matches where there were times where he didn't do as much, but Yeah, I mean that's where my biggest concern is. Their defense is not concerning. I think their defense is just as stable as it has been. But again, I think if you're looking at attack, that's where I'd be concerned. More of the attacking side. Can they rely heavily on Salui and Johnny Russell again? I think they can, but maybe not to that production level.
This is just a team that doesn't usually fall that far down. I mean, the last time they did was, so let's say it, 2019, not that long ago, right? Finished 11th in the West. Overall, they finished 21st in MLS. But 2020, they immediately rebound to 5th. Last year to 4th and this is MLS overall. They were 3rd in the West, 4th overall. That's right. The top 3 teams in the West were all better than the teams in the East except for one, the New England Revolution. So, I don't know. I can't see them falling that far down. So, shout out to No Other Pod. We're probably on your side here. I think that they can make a playoff push, and I think they'll be one of the top teams in the West again. In a crowded West. Anything else before we move on to my MLS Cup final list here?
So when the U.S. men's national team fails to make World Cup, Peter Vermees takes over next year?
No, I don't think he wants it. I don't think he would want it.
I think people just throw his name in there because they want him to coach it, just like I think Curtin, but I don't think either of them.
No.
I mean, Jim, I think, would be more interested now at the point where he is in his career than Vermees, but I still don't know if Jim, I think, is going to end up coaching a big European club at some point.
Here's the thing. Real talk. I don't think I don't think I would want it if I'm Curtin or Vermees. And the reason why is see how fast these fans will turn on an MLS manager, right? Vermees has done so good, but it really just takes not even if you don't get a 9-point window in qualifying, they're like off with their head, right? Looking at no matter what you've done in the past, right? Greg's going to probably qualify for the World Cup, and people are still going to ask for him to get fired. Same thing kind of happened with Bob. Bruce Arena, I can kind of understand a little bit more because he failed, but he kind of got dealt a really bad hand taken over from Klinsmann. And, those Bruce Arena teams in the early 2000s were, they were some of the best we've ever done, some of the best we ever had. But that's all forgotten. People want him to leave. People want him to be gone from the game, right? If I'm Jim Curtin, who doesn't have the notoriety anyway, like outside of MLS, right? Like if you're just a regular soccer follower that follows the men's national team, you have no idea who Jim Curtin is. And if he comes in here and underperformed or, took a bit to get going, people are going to be like, get out of here, right? And that could hurt your prospects for going anywhere else. So, and then Vermees, he's just got such a stable job with so much say, it's not even worth it for him. It's not even worth it. Maybe he likes being one of those people that come in every day. That's one of the things against national team. You don't usually, you might come in every day to do other things, but to actually coach and actually impart your wisdom, that's only every window that you get. So I don't think it'd be any of them. I don't know who it would be if anything were to happen. I think the first call is to Vermees, but I think he might say no deal. Unless if it was something like, I can do the World Cup. Like if we made the World Cup and something happened, I can do the World Cup because SKC's not in season, but as soon as that's done, I'm going right back to my job. I could see something like that maybe. But I don't think he's going to fully give that up. Let's go to Vancouver. 6th in the West last year. Pleasantly surprising season. Like Thanos would say, perfectly balanced as all things should be. 45 goals scored, 45 goals given up.
To go. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, the John Strong here. 45 goals given up, 45 to go. That'd be a disastrous season. Giving up 90 goals, wouldn't it? Yeah. So you have Vanni Sartini taking over the club mid-season. He had been with the club as director of development. 7 wins, 5 draws, 3 losses after the takeover. One of those losses to SKC in the playoffs. So this is kind of the question, right? They're gonna. We just talked about a team that lost 2. I'm going to read a list here of players leaving: Patrick Metcalf, Yasser Kamiri, Tassan Ricketts, Andy Rose, Crapo going to LAFC to finally become more in the spotlight, I guess. Yanio Bikel going on loan. Theo Bear transferring to St. Johnstone. They only bring in 3. Tristan Blackman with the trade from Charlotte. Sebastian Berhalter, trade from Columbus. And re-signing Isaac Boehmer, goalkeeper. Not a lot gained here, especially when you look at Berhalter. Probably more of like a additional piece. Yeah, I think he's really young still. I don't think he's going to be making a whole big difference for Vancouver. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I look at this and I think, for me, probably didn't do enough to stay 6. Right, is the way I look at it. Nashville's coming over. Not sure Vancouver is going to make it out of the playoffs. I guess they have some promise after how they performed last season, because we had them. Oh, geez, we had them as bottom of the West from what I see here. So you're welcome, Vancouver fans. It's because of us that you were able to rebound and go up to 6. But I don't know. I don't see much of a going up. I don't even see them keeping 6, right? So I think they're going to probably drop out of a playoff spot is what I have it as. But what do you think are the main worries for Vancouver? It's just losing these players, or is it not bringing in enough? Like, what's their main issue?
I mean, I think it's a mixture of a little bit of both. Like, you lost arguably one of the best keepers in MLS, Maxime Crepeau. For those that haven't been able to watch a lot of Vancouver games, which I know a lot of people don't get to watch a lot of Vancouver games because it's at 10 o'clock Eastern time. So I actually have seen quite a bit of them just because I made it kind of a point to kind of watch them more last year because I wanted to see how they were doing, especially as they did get better throughout the season. Maxime Crepeau is, I mean, he arguably is one of the best keepers in this league. He goes to LAFC. LAFC is going to get a whole lot better. I think when you talk about a team that made a lot of good signings, I think that Maxime Crepeau is one of those good signings. And I think that's why you give LAFC a lot of props for having one of the best off seasons that this, that a team has had this offseason. I guess if you're looking at this club, I mean, Vanni Sartini is exactly what you wanted in a coach. I think when you're looking at what Mark DeSantos did when he was with the club, I just don't think it was enough. I don't know if he really had a direction in mind, but Vanni Sartini seems to have a system in mind. And I think a lot of what this is about this turnover is a lot of guys not fitting in that system. I know when you look at guys like Gianno Bical and Theo Bear, if you look at and Andy Rose, those guys just don't fit in the system anymore. And I think that's where a lot of these decisions were made as far as the roster is concerned. And then when you look at the guys that they're bringing in, Tristan Blackman, good at going forward. And I think a really good trade for Vancouver out of the expansion draft. And making that move, I think, he plays into kind of like this 3-4-2-1. Or 3-4-1-2, sorry. And I think that fits really well with what Tristan Blackman wants to do. He's good with the ball at his feet. He's good at coming forward and playing kind of with those wing backs to kind of progress the ball forward out of the midfield. And then kind of joining in the attack where you've got guys like David Caicedo and you've got guys like Brian White, Gold. So, I think that's part of the issue is trying to get to a point where you've become good enough to take a step forward. However, that being said, it relies heavily on a lot of these guys taking steps forward. Brian White, he's been mentioned a lot for men's national team because there's a 9 option that not many people know about. And I know Doyle's been banging the drum. He is 24 going on 25. So, there's that concern of him being older, but that doesn't really mean much because if you look at guys like Giazzi Zardes, not really stepping into this team until he was a little older. Brian White's one of those options. Brian White could actually be one of the top scorers in this league if they continue to progress on the trajectory that I think they had last season. But if you listen to their local podcast, you listen to their radio shows, I've listened to like an interview with Vanni Sartini where he talked all sorts of things. He's a very interesting man. So if you have time, go look him up. He's fascinating. One of the articles in The Athletic was like an avid soccer coach, an avid reader, but and a guy that constantly beats the drum for socialism or something like that is the title of the article. It's a wild article to read because he's like fascinated with politics. But he's a really interesting guy, loves TV shows, loves things. This is where that text came from earlier, Jordan, when I said that people love Ted Lasso. Vanny loves Ted Lasso. He goes, the soccer part of it's awful, but he goes, that's probably expected in Hollywood or wherever. And he said the TV show, like the sentiment behind it, it's one of his favorite shows. And he goes, I'm a sucker for it. Like I watch all the time. But I mean, he's one of those guys that this team really kind of, played really well for. They want to play well for him, but I'm not sure this team's done enough. Like you said, I actually think from the season end last year to the season start this year, they've gotten worse. And that's never a good sign. Like that just doesn't work well. I don't know if Daber Caicedo is ready to take that ultimate step. He'll get better this year. I think Brian White will be a little bit better. Cavallini had sparing starts because Brian White was so good last season. So, you got that to kind of throw in and consider. Ryan Gold was magnificent when he came over. And he played extremely well, but can he continue that trajectory too? I don't know. There's a lot of question marks with this team. And for a team that finished 6th that actually could have made a splash or two here in the offseason, they didn't really do much. They didn't do enough for me. They've always said that the Axel Schuster always said that their biggest philosophy is to wait for the fish to come to you and you catch it on the hook and by being patient rather than going out and being proactive in the market, which I don't think any team has ever not or has been successful waiting for the big fish to just fall into their lap. It's the teams that want to go out and spend money and buy these players that something special happens, like a Hani Mukhtar. Like they flew a jet to him to get him here, to recruit him, to show him that Nashville was a great city. You don't see Vancouver doing that. And I think that's kind of where this team is. It's in a state of limbo. And I think they got worse. Their defense has never been great. So I guess we'll see. But again, I feel bad for Vancouver fans because I thought this was the season where you go, we have a good coach. We have a good system. He's got a really good
We have
system.
a foundation.
Yes.
Right? We have a foundation to build off of, but it doesn't seem like they have. Yeah.
Right. It's sad.
No, I liked all those points you made. I didn't miss any of them.
Mm-mm.
So that was.
Yeah, absolutely. For our audio listeners, they wouldn't know a difference, but for the video listeners, they're like,
yeah, well, I didn't leave. I was right here the whole time.
Like Houdini.
But no, yeah, this was this is kind of where we're down, I think. I think we're kind of all down on Vancouver, but we were last year, so watch them get like 4th now. So, and if so, then we'll have to just we'll just have to keep doubting them, and then you guys will get an MLS Cup. Like that is our goal, is to get Vancouver an MLS Cup by doubting you. So keep it up. Right.
This is more frustration with like them not doing anything. Montreal were like the ones we were doubting. Canada doesn't like us. They don't like us too much. I don't think so.
But we were down on Montreal last year and they performed well too. So whatever team we're kind of down on, it's going to do pretty well. Whatever team we're high on, like Columbus, not going to do so well if we go off last year.
Oh, poor Seattle.
All right. Are you ready to get to
the
last team?
Dun, dun, dun.
Nashville, 3rd in the East, making the move to the West. 54 points would have been good for what place, Logan? In
5th
the West.
Place.
Yep. Yeah, I wish I'd put this together so I could actually ask you. You could guess. But you put this together so you know. They scored 54 goals with 54 points, and they only gave up 33. Tied for best in the league last year on goals allowed. Gary Smith is familiar with the West. He coached Colorado to their MLS Cup against FC Dallas in 2010. And if you want to say, why did Colorado face off against FC Dallas in an MLS Cup? Well, that was the wild times of MLS where anything could go, really. Kind of miss those days at times.
Was that with the weird penalty kicks? When were those? Like, when did that start?
No, that was like 96
Okay.
and like
Dang.
early
Those were fun. Watch back on the
very
clips.
early in the thing. And we
brutal.
used to have a clock that counted, I think, down.
Yeah.
Or maybe it was.
Like
I think it was counting
a certain
down
amount of time or something.
Yeah, something like that. But we had a clock to count down. Like so, if you watch college soccer, their clock counts down from 45 or whatever. I don't even know if they play full 45. It might be a different length for college. Anyway, so he's familiar with the West, but the West has changed a lot since Gary Smith led the Rapids to the West. Now, of course, Nashville was in the West once before in 2020 when they played one game before the season got shut down. They were in the West and got moved to the East for MLS's back. So maybe a homecoming is what you can consider this. I don't know. Hani Mukhtar, MVP of my heart, should have been MVP of the league. Walker Zimmerman, another defender of the year. CJ Sapong putting on a very solid year. They had 18 draws last year, though, the most in any club in 2021. They're tough to beat at Nissan Stadium, but they'll be opening up a new stadium on the 1st of May.
And I think,
go ahead.
I think Jordan, the stadium actually is going to be called Crypto.com Stadium, to be honest.
Is it really?
No. No, I was just trying to make you mad. I actually think it's going to be NFT.com. The NFT is what it's going to be called. The Nashville
you know what?
Football.
That's what it's going to be next. It's going to be like NFT. The latest NFT is our stadium owning rights, and you can too own our stadium naming rights. Yeah. Out. Alistair Johnson goes to Montreal. Dylan Nealis goes to the Red Bulls. Abu Danladi back to Minnesota United. Our Minnesota fans, we're not really that hyped about it. Miguel Nazaret goes to Deportivo Cali. Matt LaGrassa to Sacramento FC. Lots of free transfers here. Nick Hines goes to El Paso. Jaleel Anibaba back to the Crew. Is back to the Crew right? Maybe not. Just a first-time Crew, I guess. Yeah. I don't know. He's been around the league. He's been around a few teams. I'm probably thinking of the Fire when he was on the Fire. Rodrigo Pinheiro to Union Espanola, not Philly Union. David Accam released, Tom Judge released, and Tor Sanders released. They bring in Teal Bunbury from the New England Revolution. They bring in Sean Davis from the Red Bulls. Josh Bauer from Atlanta United on a re-entry draft. Will Meyer in the Super Draft. Ahmed Longmire in the Super Draft. And from LA Galaxy, they're going to bring in Ethan Zubak. So, things to watch in 2022. Their stadium is opening. Walker Zimmerman, probably Defender of the Year again. Sean Davis coming into the midfield. Hani Mukhtar, if he has another good season, can he nab an MVP? Can CJ Sapong continue his solid season from last year? And can they actually win more games instead of drawing and help move up the ladder of the West? It's going to take more wins this year, but maybe some of those draws are going to become losses. The Western Conference is a little tougher. Where do you kind of see Nashville going, and what are you worried about with them?
It's a good team. I mean, you and I know this from the East. This is a tough team to beat. Defensively, they're a bear to beat, and that's really difficult when you
unless you get them to penalties,
right? Yeah, or if you go 2 up on Nashville, you're more than likely going to draw with them. We've learned that as well. Cincinnati and them, I think, for the
it's going to become 2-2 or 5-2 or something.
Right? It's going to be something crazy.
One of the two ways.
You're in for a wild match when you get in with Nashville, and by saying that, I mean Nashville, they defend so well, Jordan. Like it's impressive how good they are and how good Walker Zimmerman has become. I think he's become the number 1 center back choice. When Greg is doing a center back, fill in the sheet, we thought it was Milo Robinson. We thought it was John Anthony Brooks. it now is Walker Zimmerman. I mean, Walker Zimmerman is the guy. Oftentimes we're in the captain band. I mean, the guy has taken a huge step every single season. And I think it's just going to keep getting bigger. There was actually a quote that he had done with the press conference where they asked him about Defensive Player of the Year and like, what the award means to him. And he goes, he wants to win it every year that he plays. So that's his new goal, is to win it every single year.
And that's how it should be, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you want to be the best in your position every year,
Mhm.
which means that you want to win that every year, because if you win it every year, you're probably playing really well, and you're probably helping your team get as close as they can to winning something.
Yeah. And defensive players aren't going to win MVP. That's their MVP. That is their trophy. That is the one. If you're going to ask a defensive player, what do you want to do and accomplish? That is the one. They want to do that, and they want to keep clean sheets. And I think they've got a perfect, back line to do that. I will say it'll be interesting to see how they replace Alistair Johnson, because when we had Jamie Watson on from Nashville on last year, we were talking about with Jamie. Alistair Johnson was on a meteoric rise as well, and he was climbing up the ranks of the Canada national team. He didn't play as well after that, but he was still really good. It's really shocking to me that they traded him, but Montreal gets a really good player in Alistair Johnson. But I mean, this team's so stacked. I mean, between Romney and Zimmerman, you've got Godoy, who's fantastic in the midfield. You've got a guy like Sean Davis now, who captained the Red Bulls, who's joining his former teammates in Red Bull, and Dax McCarty, and Alex Mule. Thank you. Couldn't get that on my face. But again, that's adding expertise, and I think that's adding a really good piece. Jordan, this team's stacked. I mean, with depth, the only issue I will say, and it's continuing to be an issue, CJ Sapong was a nice break for them last year because he did perform well in goals, and he was racking up goals at a high level. But I don't think he can do it again this year. I think he will regress some back to kind of what his mean has always been. He's good at, he's getting 8 to 10 goals maybe, and that's a really good season for him. He overperformed last year, I think, and that part of that was Hani Mukhtar being so good. But if you take Hani out of the game in the attack, they really struggle. Randall Leal at times just flash. You know who he kind of reminded me of? He kind of reminded me of last year. He reminded me of Ezekiel Barco. At times he'd look very threatening, and then other times it's like he fades into the distance. So again, it'll be interesting to see what they do. Ake Loba is a really good player, a DP next to Hani Mukhtar, but I think they need another, DP. Yaner Cadiz is gone. That's who they were looking for goals last season. He didn't provide them. Goals are going to be tough. And again, I think the winning problem, and that comes down to goal scoring, right? I think their problem with drawing was because they didn't have the finisher. And I'm not sure that they have a finisher this year. I'm still concerned about that. That's why I don't think they're going to be, 1 or 2 in the West. But I think that 3, 4, 5 range is kind of what we're looking at here.
Yeah, I think this kind of comes at a really rough time for them, because
Mhm.
I really think if they stayed in the East, they had a real good shot of making a run, right? And now you're in the gauntlet, right? It's like if you, I don't even know an analogy I was gonna say. It's like if you were, in the middle of a playground brawl, and then all of a sudden you have to go up against the Avengers, right? Like it's now like, crap, because
right.
When we looked at it, right, while we are fans of East teams and we generally like a lot of the East teams, it's just a different quality in the West. And when you look at what we said earlier, that Sporting KC finished 3rd in the West, but 4th overall in MLS, really shows that the Revs ran away with the East, and that was it.
Yeah.
Like, the other teams in the East were not super great. Nashville were the second best. No, they fell down to 3rd, right?
3rd,
Union took 2nd. But now they have to go over to, and this would have put them where in the West? This would have put them
with Nashville. I didn't run it. It was.
Okay. Oh no, you did.
No, I did. Yeah, it's 5th. Yeah. Okay.
This would have put them 5th in the West. Still a playoff team, right? But. And I think that's what they got to hope for. I think they have to kind of hope for And that's the thing too. You can't even go off of points and convert it because they're going to play a majority West schedule now. So it's going to be
That's the
really
other thing we
tough
didn't
for them.
talk about. Yeah.
It's going to be really tough for them. I'm pulling for them. They got a really great kit this year.
They do.
You know what? I'm going to probably put on a lot of Nashville games
Same.
when I get the shot because I love their kits. They're going to be opening a new stadium. Like they're going to be fun to watch.
Mhm.
And I want to see how they navigate the West. I think if you're neutral, picking out Nashville games is going to be a lot of fun because their biggest matchups last year were against like the Revs and the Union. Now we're going to get to see them against Sounders, Timbers, SKC. We're going to see them against all the really good teams now, and we're going to see what they're actually made of. And really excited for that. Dax lost his neck fat, so we're going to be having some really good Dax McCarty time.
That's some quality TV, and he jumps in the booth every once in a while. Yeah.
If people don't know what I'm talking about, he shared a picture of him in his all 16 seasons. It's like his first season and his 16th season. And he's like, I finally lost my neck fat. But yeah, so that's kind of where we're going with Nashville. I'm pulling for them. I'm going to really be excited to see their new stadium, which is going to be, let's not forget, the largest capacity soccer-specific stadium in America. So pretty big. Okay. So anything else about these teams?
No, but I'm looking forward to it. The West is going to be again the dominant conference. So if you're a neutral and you like to watch it and you're kind of in a time zone, the West is going to be and is always a blast. The East is so unpredictable, and I think you got a lot of good teams at the top. They're very top heavy in the East, whereas the West is going to be more spread out. I mean, you got teams that I think if you put them in the East, they kind of push for those playoff spots when you're talking about, like a Dallas or maybe a Houston this year because of the pieces they've added. San Jose, I think, would push for an Eastern spot. But again, it'll change. Like it changes, the weather changes, it changes. It's all going to be nice to watch. But I'm looking forward to the season. Looking forward to previewing, I guess, everything that we've said on Thursday because I think there's a lot of interesting stuff that we'll kind of run through again. But yeah, Jordan, looking forward to it. The kits look nice. The fields look nice. The stadiums look great that are coming into the league. So all good times for the MLS. All good times.
Yeah, it's very exciting because we're going to be having some just Thursday. We're going to be previewing all of where we're actually putting these teams. We've alluded to certain spots, but we're going to have the big preview on Thursday live. We go on live around 7:15ish. Let's say that 7:15ish. We're going to be going live to do all of that. We're going to be previewing MVP, Coach of the Year, right? Like all that fun stuff. Goal scorer, top goal scorer. We're going to be looking at all that great stuff. And then the season actually starts on Saturday, which my plan on Saturday is to just kind of kick back and watch the games. Sunday, I'm gonna miss a chunk of them, unfortunately, but looking forward to Saturday at least and be able to catch up on some of these, before we record again after that. So yeah, we have just the review left and then we're going to be going back to our regular schedule. And I just want to give a little golf clap here, Logan. We've done 2 successful seasons of previewing every single team in MLS.
It took a while, and this year of
course, they added another team, and they're going to do it again next year for us with St. Louis.
Yeah, and it sounds like Vegas is coming down the pipeline too. So,
yeah, probably. Probably a new club every year at this rate until that Vegas team is done, right? I think they're kind of stopping at 30 until they get to 30. I don't know. I'm assuming there's going to be one season at least soon where we have just the same clubs as last year, and then we either go from 29 to 30 then, or we go from 30 to 32 then, or something like that. Okay, so that's what's coming up. That's exciting. That's really, really fun. If you want to reach out to us and tell us if you know what the gritty is, and if you were like me and did not, and want to tell me your age, As well, you can reach us on Twitter at Stateside Show, Instagram at Stateside Show, Facebook.com/Stateside Show, or email us statesideshow@gmail.com. You can also send us your thoughts on where these clubs finish out and tell us how wrong we are. We'll read those on air. I don't care about that. I take criticism very well. So, but yeah, so I hope everyone has a great rest of their day. This is releasing on Wednesday, so you have kind of a day notice here to join us live. But I hope you do if you're able to, and get ready to enjoy these games and this lineup of games that we have coming up that we'll also take a look at on Thursday. So thanks again and have a great rest of your night. Let's say night.
Jordan, I think I know who stole Dax McCarty's neck fat.
Oh, did you just came up with this on the spot? Who stole it?
Me.
Oh, gee. You're getting up there, man. With
over
age,
200, baby.
With age comes weight.
Responsibility.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, with age comes responsibility. It's a Spider-Man tale here.